Chemistry, we're going to wrap up the foundations unit with lesson 20, and this is on naming molecular ions. So molecular ions are covalently bonded compounds that possess a negative charge and are anions. Molecular ions are usually formed in acid dissociation reactions, and that's a topic we're going to deal with later on in the course. Molecular ions can be found in the third section of the 60 common ions sheet. You cannot find them on the charge number by ion sheet because they're compounds. Charge number by ion sheet only shows individual elements. This is a compound. Examples of molecular ions are NO3 minus, 1 minus, SO4 2 minus, and PO4 3 minus. So what you do is you memorize the 8 ions. The 8 is in the suffix ate, not the number 8. ate. And the mnemonic for that is BINC SCP. So let's see what they are. They are bromate, which is BrO3 minus, iodate, which is IO3 minus, nitrate, NO3 minus, chlorate, ClO3 minus. Then we get over to the 2 charge, the 2 minus charge ions, and that's sulfate, SO4 2 minus, and carbonate, CO3 2 minus. And finally, there's one that has a 3 minus charge, that's phosphate, PO4 3 minus. So these you need to memorize in order to do what we're going to do on the next slide. You have to know need to know both the number of oxygens and the charge. Is it 1 minus, 2 minus, or 3 minus? So now we're simply going to name some. So carbonate. So you have to have that memorized, what the carbonate is, and it's CO3 2 minus. So memorize the 8 ATE ions. That's carbonate. Okay, so now what you do is you add 1 oxygen to that. So it's CO4 2 minus. So it has 1 more oxygen than carbonate, but it still has the same charge. The charge does not change. So this has 1 more oxygen than the 8 ATE. That's the carbonate. That's called percarbonate. When you add 1 more oxygen than the 8, it's per. You add the prefix per. Now we're going to go in the other direction. We're going to take an oxygen away. So it's CO2. Again, it's still 2 minus charge. The charge does not change. So that's 1 less oxygen than ATE. So that's called carbonite, ITE. So the 8 changes to an ite. Now we're going to take 2 oxygens away from the carbonate. So it's CO2 minus. So 2 less oxygen than 8. And that's called hypocarbonite. Hypocarbonite. Hypo means beneath, and so or under, and so hypocarbonite is the name of that. So the charge on the ions does not change, only the number of oxygens. We'll do one more example. So sulfate. So you have to have that memorized, and that's SO4 2 minus. So memorize the 8 ions. So now we're going to add 1 more oxygen, SO5 2 minus, charge stays the same, 1 more oxygen than the 8, the sulfate. So that's going to be called persulfate. The PER goes on front. Now we'll go on the other direction. SO3 2 minus, you took an oxygen away, still a 2 minus charge, 1 less oxygen than ATE. So that's sulfite. And now we're going to take away an additional oxygen, SO2 2 minus. So that's 2 less oxygen than the 8. And that's going to be hyposulfite. Again, the charge on the ions does not change, only the number of oxygens. So that's the naming convention for molecular ions. And that takes care of the foundations unit. We're now going to move on to the reactions unit and learn how to use chemical equations.